Hello, so this week we discussed measurement systems and choosing the best measurement system in place. Before I get to scenario one, I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the discussion that we had this week about using systems that the organization already has in place. So I know Dr. Ray made a comment that, in the field of ABA, when it comes to incorporating already established technologies or just technology in general, we're not that advanced. I know now with the push on just like utilization and numbers and all that, all those things in AVA, a lot of companies are adopting these different systems so that they are, measuring those things more efficiently. As we mentioned, human error plays a huge role. So if there is a system in place that we can utilize to track organizational goals or objectives, this would be ideal. I know in my organization, we use something called Power BI. So it pulls all the data from Rethink, and we use that to track, how long it takes the BCBA or RBT to close sessions out. It tracks the BCBA utilization, client utilization, RBT supervision compliance. So those things are helpful when we're reporting on numbers. The challenge with those is that kind of when we mentioned Rethink is just wonky in general. So some of the numbers aren't as accurate as they should be. So just trying to find that balance between, finding a system that reports on numbers accurately and understanding that every system is not perfect and trying to figure out the intricacies thereof and how to mitigate those issues within the system. We also talked about, kind of like I said, the human error aspect. So if I'm a quality assurance reviewer and I'm reviewing, BCBA reports, and I'm reviewing a large quantity of these reports on a daily or weekly basis, there is a likelihood that I am going to be missing something on these reports. So it's important to not recognize, but develop systems so that we can kind of mitigate that human error. So I know at my company, we have like a report review audit. So it's a very clear, concise checklist that the directors will use as they're reviewing reports to check off, hey, these are things that you want to make sure that you're reviewing and giving the BCBA feedback on. So it mitigates that error component. I know one of the biggest challenges now, as we talked about, is that a lot of quality assurance checks are solely centered around insurance requirements. So unless insurance is not giving pushback or implementing a new criteria, these quality assurance checks aren't really evolving. So we typically see the QA process evolve when insurance evolves, and that shouldn't be the case, right? So even if insurance isn't pointing something out, that doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't adjust it or set that criteria. So we are seeing like different companies setting their own quality assurance standards, even if it's not necessarily an insurance requirement. They're saying, hey, this is our requirement here at the facility. So for scenario one, trying to increase the amount of, I had it in my phone and I was looking at it, but trying to increase the amount of calls resolved at a call center. So it was between frequency and duration. So frequency, the amount of calls that are closed out, and then duration is the length of time the calls are closed out. So with frequency, the pro of that is that, we're measuring how many is being closed out for the day. So if we have a quota we're trying to meet, so, call center reps need to close out 15 or 20 per day, that gives a clear quantitative measure on like how many needs to get done, and it's very clear and straightforward. The con of that is that, if we're just focusing on the amount that is getting done, we may not be looking at the quality of resolving these issues, right? So something can be resolved, somebody can be hitting their numbers, but the quality isn't necessarily there, right? So they could be doing it too fast or too slow, and then we're not looking at the intricacies of the actual resolution of the call. So an example of this is like a BCBA closing out, all their session notes very quickly, and they're hitting that timeline. But when we look at the quality of the note, since they're doing it so fast, trying to hit that frequency number, the quality is lacking and they're missing things within the notes. The duration, so it really just depends on if they're trying to expedite the speed of which they're being resolved. So with resolving calls faster, the pro of that is that you're going to have more closed out. So if you're giving a strict timeline, like, hey, all calls need to be closed out within 5 minutes, the pro of that is like that's going to expedite that overall the amount that's going to be closed out, and then it's a clear timeline. The con of that is that this also may negatively impact the quality of resolution that is being provided. So if someone is on a call and they know that, after 5 minutes, they don't get credit for, the call, or they may not be eligible for a bonus because they're passing that 5 minute duration, they may try to speed up that call. And then now the customer isn't getting the services that they need, or the resolution that they need, because the call representative tried to expedite that call. So as far as checks and balances, I would say some type of quality assurance check across the board. So with the frequency, even though they meet their frequency count, there may be a checklist that the quality assurance team reviews the call. Did they greet the customer? Were they pleasant? I know pleasant isn't measurable and objective, but whatever the measurable system is, like, did they review the informed consent with the customer? Just kind of going through that checklist. And then if they don't meet all the checklist criteria, then they don't get credit for that call. So even though they completed it, they have to also get a certain score on the quality assurance check. Similar with the duration, right? So they have a checklist in place. So even if they close the call within, say, the 5 minute goal, if they don't meet all the criteria on that checklist from the quality assurance department, then they don't get credit for that cold call.